Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. Hope you're all in the mood for some Christmas spirit. Anybody who's watched this podcast or listened to it for a long time knows what a big deal Christmas is at our house with our 60 trees and whatever. So I'm joined today by two of the creative minds over at DSTLRY, Bryce Gold and Sean Edgar. And they're going to tell us all about a special holiday offering that DSTLRY is putting together. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Bryce. Why don't you let everybody know what the project's all about?
Totally. So I'm one of the co-editors of Through the Boughs, DSTLRY's Yuletide offering, a 64-page one-shot collection featuring 7 stories focused on Yuletide and holiday spirit that I co-edited with Sean Edgar, who is also joining us today.
So, Sean, big fan of the holidays, big fan of Christmas. How excited are you for this project?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, I think as a kid, it was also one of the times when I got a lot of comics. And so I have a heavy association with being able to binge read as much as possible during times we didn't have school. So I think me and Bryce just wanted to celebrate the magic of diving into fiction, how it crossed over with this time of the year.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued by kind of the eclectic feel from what I've heard about the stories that are in there. So I want to dive into that. But before we do, Bryce, you are relatively new to DSTLRY in terms of, weren't there necessarily when it started, but certainly have relationships with a lot of the people over there. But with your kind of role there in, kind of discovering and fostering a new talent under the DSTLRY banner. Is this really your first chance to kind of reach out to people, whether they be newer creators or veteran creators, and bring them into the DSTLRY fold?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there, Jace. I think that this has been a really great project to showcase all of the really exciting talent that are looking to work with DSTLRY. My role as head of new talent here is really showcased by the ability not only to bring some of the AAA talent that we have as founding creators. We're working with Tynion on this collection, as well as some of the really, really amazing talents out there in the world, from the world of animation that we're bringing into the fold. Particularly with McHale, the writer and creator of Over the Garden Wall, really working with Jim Campbell, some really great talent there. But finding, new voices, existing voices, I think independent voices, finding great ways and ties of bringing a lot of different talent together to really come together for a really beautiful set of stories here from a really wide variety of creators, both big and small, in this great world that we exist in with comic creation.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic time, just a golden age of story. And kind of playing on that and what I was mentioning earlier about kind of the tone of the book, and maybe you can speak to this, Sean, this idea. DSTLRY's done a lot of books kind of in the horror genre. When you think about holiday season, Christmas is so interesting. I mean, think back to like the classic Christmas Carol, which is very much a scary, horror story, but also Christmas is a time of joy and what have you. So can readers expect a mix of both? And what kind of feel overall are you trying to capture with this project?
Oh, that is a question we could talk about for a long time. So I think it kind of gets back to the inception of this project. So I was the co-editor on another DSTLRY collection of short stories called Come Find Me with Becky Cloonan. And how that came across is we just wanted to kind of encapsulate the same approach to horror that was seen in Somna, which is the series from Becky and Tula that was erotic folk horror. Something that was a little bit more less direct and Western in its approach, and something that was a little bit more A24 than big budget, a little bit more insidious, a little bit more svelte, a little bit more atmospheric. And after that was done, I went to Becky and I said, Becky, can we please do this for Christmas? One of my favorite people is Michael Dougherty. He's the writer and director of Trick or Treat. And he has that same sort of affection for both of the holidays. And I kind of love what he did with Krampus. And so I'd asked Becky, and she's like, I'd love to, but I have some other deadlines. And then Bryce, on his own terms, had just been like, I want to do a winter fantasy collection. And, Christmas is definitely, one of the main milestones of the winter holidays. But yeah, this is supposed to be just a little bit more primal, a little bit more atmospheric and psychedelic. And so we kind of combined all of that, the fantasy, mischievousness, but also the warmth and the mystery and the magic of that period. And that's what we kind of wanted to encapsulate when we spoke to each of these creators. So I think one of the aesthetics that kind of nails that the most is I used to work with Patrick McHale, creator of Over the Garden Wall, quite a bit. And he fits that aesthetic between something that's like a winsome fairy tale with just the slightest degree of sinister, just to give it a few jagged teeth. And he, like, when Bryce was describing it, I was like, yeah, we have to ask Patrick. 100%. And I think going down the line, I think we're able to nail that. And I think Bryce can speak to this, but like James Tynion's story, it's probably on the more extreme version of that horror. And then I think we have like just a great mix that's able to have the aesthetic that kind of winds through different genres. Like Ryan Andrews' story is as close as you'll find to a Dark Souls Christmas outing. Then some of them get a little bit more cosmic, I would say, between what Molly's doing and what Wroten's doing. And, then you have a guy like Grim Wilkins. I don't know if you've read Miranda, but he's a visual storyteller. He loves big European splashy storytelling. And he definitely went that route with most of the graphics telling the story as opposed to, captions or dialogue. So it winds. I think it's supposed to be more of a vibe than it is anything that's dictated.
Yeah, that makes
and kind of going off of what Sean mentioned, just it's very funny that we were both kind of in this, like, we need to do something for the holidays mindset at the same time. What I was thinking is I really wanted to do something different from your standard, like, Christmas packages under the tree, like, Santa hanging outside. I really wanted to like kind of subvert that and also really focus on both the fantasy and folkloric aspect of the time period. So we see a lot of things that are very focused on the solstice in this book. We have things that are focused really on things kind of like the Green Knight, where it is a Christmas story, but there's a lot more going on there that's a little more fantasy. We have stories that I think really focus on both the dichotomy of winter and solitude and the end of things versus the beginning of a new adventure and bringing the people together. I think that we really focused on the familial aspect of the holiday, as well as sort of just pulling a lot from the aesthetics of the colors and the lights and the just the accoutrement, I think, of the holiday spirit of really bringing as much, flash and bright color to the page as possible. You'll see that with a lot of the stories, but I think we also kept it pretty open-ended, like Sean mentioned. Like, we'll see some horror sci-fi stories. The Wroten story Pulsar, for instance, is a very dark take on both the effects of climate change and how that affects our holidays, giving it a real sci-fi bent to it, versus Molly Mendoza's story, which really focuses on the zodiac and the star signs and bringing in the new year with the winter solstice. So really kind of pulling from a lot of different pieces here, but I think that the end result really came together in a really great way, where we see sci-fi, horror, fantasy all kind of come together in this really, really amazing collection.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you both say that, because, so much of storytelling, you hear Christmas special or Christmas anthology, and immediately we think of kind of I'll use the term whitewash. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but the sort of the Western mythos of Frosty and Rudolph and happiness and cheer and what have you. But Christmas goes back to the earliest pagan origins. You use the word folklore, Bryce, which is so much of what it is grounded in. And if you go back and read things like Christmas Carol, it pulls more into those sort of fantastical ideas of the unknown, which can be really scary. So beyond just getting to the kind of the earliest roots of what Christmas is, I think by focusing and going in this direction, not only does it open up more storytelling to get the creators excited to be able to basically say the sky's the limit, but also have a wider appeal than just, okay, this is for an American audience. For either of you, would you say that's true?
100%. I think that, both with the format of the Distillery Prestige size, like we're actually going even bigger and better than we have since The Devil's Cut. This is a 64-page collection. This is the biggest book we published since The Devil's Cut. And I think that both with the thickness of the book and then also just the page size, we really wanted to go as IMAX as possible, really diving in on more of the European sensibilities, both with comics and then also with the storytelling itself. So, I think that we've really leaned in on the folkloric aspect here to present something that is very, very like tale as old as time, I'd say, for most of these stories, really pulling from both familiar and unfamiliar works related to things that you might have or have not seen for the holidays before.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's funny because we call this a stocking stuffer, but it might have some issues getting into some stuff.
Yeah, you're really going to have to stuff pretty hard.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Sean, you mentioned being a part of Distillery from the beginning and having done an anthology before, and not to say that, you didn't know what you were doing or everybody over at Distillery that was there at the beginning, they knew how to make comics and how to make good comics.
Sure.
But coming together and having, won awards and kind of finding Distillery, finding its footing and that sort of thing, was the process different? Was it more comfortable? Was it easier going into doing this second anthology that also allowed you to go bigger and better, if you will?
I mean, I think the big difference was like for Combine Me, Becky Cloonan was the main curator there. And we talked things through, and there was certainly a degree of input that I had. Like, I really wanted E.M. Carroll to be in Combine Me. She's one of my favorite storytellers who I think would have fit gorgeously into this volume as well. But me and Bryce, we are strangely, magically aligned, I think, on a lot of aesthetics. And I come with, because we've been in the industry for years and years and years, like, we have different roles at Distillery, but the fact of the matter is we've been editors or editor-in-chiefs and published comics at different points in our careers. So even when I was at Pace, like I was publishing E.M. Carroll, Sualote, Becky Cloonan, and Wes Craig and Paste. And so there's a bunch of people I've wanted to work with. There's a bunch of people I've worked with. And so we just went down the line and said, how about this person? How about this person? And then we did the same thing for the covers. And I don't think there's anybody who we disagreed with. Like, there were some fits that we were more passionate about, especially for this volume. But in the end, it was so harmonious.
No, it definitely felt often like we were finishing each other's sentences with just our ideas. Like we both independently come to the same thought and then come together and be like blurring it out at the same time. And it's like, yes, perfect. Well, this was a very easy decision to make. But yeah, I have to agree with Sean that the lineup for this book is just fantastic. Like, it really feels like a dream project in so many ways of bringing folks together, making something that is so cool. And I think really near and dear to everybody's hearts. Like, we really gave a canvas to these creators to really go and make something, we gave them sort of the feel, the vibes, and then they took it and ran with it and really came back with some amazing, beautiful pages, some of the coolest work and coolest paneling and interesting storytelling that I've seen in a very long time. So very excited to see the world receive all of our very fun characters throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I know I can't wait to get my hands on it. So it's going to be in comic shops, everybody, on December 11th. Now's the time to pre-order. You have until November 4th before final order cutoff. But don't wait. Let your retailer know. I mean, pause the podcast if you have to. Pause the YouTube show and go and pre-order it from your retailer so you're sure to get yourself a copy. We've seen a lot of Distillery titles selling out, and then on the secondary market, you're having to pay more. So now's the time. Order it so you can get it in time for Christmas. And I am sort of curious, right? Like, I think back to those kind of classic Christmas episodes of the shows that we, used to watch growing up. And oftentimes they were filmed, months and months ahead of time when it wasn't Christmas. It's the middle of the summer. They're having to wear sweaters, get in the holiday mood. Was there any sense of that? Because, again, you guys have been working on this for a while.
I mean, it is funny. We did start this process months ago. So it was definitely in the heat of summer that everyone was like, you ready to start putting on your red hats and thinking about the Christmas spirit? But I think also just having that folkloric take on it is fun. But also some of these are just timeless characters. Like, you can really kind of put yourself in the mindset of thinking about both the Christmas spirit, the holiday spirit, all of it. I think, it is timeless. It is a tale that you can tell, it is of a time period and of a period of time in the year, but something that I think really feels evergreen, much like a Christmas tree.
Fair enough. Well, let's close out with this, gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for your time. Clearly, you both love the holiday season and what have you. So I'll start with you, Sean. Any tradition that you had growing up, anything that just screamed, hey, it's Christmas time. This is the time that we do this. What was your Christmas tradition growing up?
Oh, man. I mean, for the most part, it was very Italian. So my mom's like a first generation Italian and her parents came from Italy. So there's definitely a Roman Catholic Mass. There's definitely cookies with different liqueurs in them that I probably wouldn't eat today. And besides that, I think it was very Midwestern and Americana, eating out cookies for Santa and whatnot. I don't know if it deviated much more than it does for the average American who celebrates Christmas.
I think my experience is kind of fun in that, my mother's Jewish. My father his mother was Irish Catholic and his dad was Jewish. So we really were a household that did both, but we're also like very secular in our approach. We celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas. So lighting the menorah, but then also having a Christmas tree. We did not put a star at the top of our Christmas tree. We put a stuffed chicken. So that's, when I think about Christmas, I think about chicken on the top of the tree, hiding a pickle inside of the tree somewhere, having a lot of fun, but really celebrating everything about the season is just, I think in my opinion, in my experience, it's just fun for everybody.
Wait, Bryce, we have to stop. There was a pickle inside the tree. Was it like an artificial pickle? Was it a real?
Yeah. I think that's actually like a German tradition is hiding a pickle in the tree. But when I was born, the pickle was my ornament to put on the tree. And if I can put a pickle on a tree every year, I think I'll be a happy guy.
Do people have to find it, or is it just kind of hanging out?
It is hidden. I think that the tradition is like, if you do find it, you get a little something. But, in my house, it might be a bunch of gelt, which is the Jewish chocolate coin, really mixing everything together. So
sure.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Jewish guilt.
Holiday tradition is
the Jewish guilt and the Catholic guilt. You were getting it from both sides.
Yeah, you get it all.
Wow. Well, for me, it was tamales. Yeah, my mother being Mexican and just a huge gathering of that side of the family every year. And I think probably before I was 12, it was about the gifts that I, whatever toys I was getting under the tree, comics, what have you. But by the time I was about 12, it was more about the tamales than anything else. So I always look forward to that every year. So
tamales, yeah.
Yeah, just awesome. Anyway, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Don't forget, everybody, Through the Boughs is going to be on sale in your comic shops on December 11th. Pre-order cutoff, or final order cutoff, rather, on November 4th. So again, now's the time to order. I tell you guys all the time, it's the lifeblood of publishers and creators and comic shops to pre-order. Not only are you guaranteeing that you're going to get yourself the book, but you're helping out your retailers by letting them know how much to order. You're letting the publishers know, hey, what should we be focused on? What should we be looking toward in the future? What is getting a ton of pre-orders and a ton of interest? So again, gentlemen, a little early here, but Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thanks for taking the time.
Happy holidays.
Jace, thanks so much. Happy holidays.
And so all you listeners out there, happy holidays to you, maybe a little early, but on behalf of Bryce and Sean, we want to thank you all for taking the time to join us, whether you're listening on the YouTube or the podcast feed, rather, or the YouTube channel. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk to you next time.